Man, this is wild. Okay, so I was thinking, like, because I have a lot of people who have near-death experiences on the channel, then I kind of have in my own brain, I kind of think, well, that kind of experience is for those people who you got to actually be nearly dead. Well, you got to be dead actually, and then you can have that experience. So in my mind, I'm going, well, maybe that's the reason why I have not had that kind of experience. But now you're saying that that's actually not the case, and it's probably more to do with your expectations than anything else. Is that a pretty common, like, statement that you hear from people say, "Well, that couldn't possibly happen for me," and then what yeah, how
Yeah.
do you explain that?
So I've been taking people with me since 2019. So that's just been my offer. I'm not one that really likes to argue much. So when I'm around people and they're like, oh, that can't happen, I just offer, you want to go? Like, I could take you. They're like, I'm like, no, I'm not offering to kill you. No Jim Jones situations. There's no punch in the back. I could just take you, or I could show you how to meet them. They're like, oh, well, I don't know. I will. I'm like, do you want to see them or not? And most people take me up on my offer. There is a demographic that doesn't. Funny enough, most people would think, who would pass up something like that? It happens. People have their fears, their reservations. Some people come back after a while and say, all right, I'm ready. Usually they try to fast and pray and stuff and get spiritual first. I'm like, you can't fix you. Being around them fixes us. They love you already. There's nothing you can do to earn their love. And that's really one of the keys that I learned when I met Yeshua for the first time visibly. I was on a cruise ship and it was New Year's of 2019. And I'm in the cabin alone reading a book and I feel his presence, but I'd felt his presence almost every day before this. So it wasn't anything new. But for some reason, I felt to turn and look to where I was feeling his presence radiating from. So I look over and he steps through the wall. He has these burning blue cosmic eyes. His body looks like a nebula condensed into human form. And I understand why they use the phrase undone in the Bible, because I felt like I got taken apart and put back together. My body slumped in the chair, my soul went one way, my spirit went another, and then I got re-put together and he walked back through the wall. Now, something that I learned, and I tell people this because if you've seen any of my interviews, I say similar phrases. This stuff is easier than we think it is. What I learned in that moment is that they want that stuff more than we do. They just respect us enough to not scare us or to actually move according to our actual desires. But they want to meet us more than we want to see them. The other thing is that it's a right, not a privilege, in that because, for anyone that considers themselves a child of God or a child of the divine, whatever phrasing you like, um, that implies family. If God's your family, you have a right to see your own family. No special requirements outside of that, to be honest. So I know people who never grew up in church at all, had never read the Bible, was meeting the same Yeshua I was meeting. And he was telling us about each other. He's like, hey, I want you to meet my friend. And I'm not going to say her name, but he's like, I want you to meet my friend such and such. And then he tells her later, hey, there's this guy in Texas I want you to meet. Eventually we meet and it's like, oh, you're the one he was telling me about because it's the same guy. And I hear her story. She didn't grow up in a Christian home at all, had never read the Bible. And one of the things that surprised her is that I call him Yeshua and not Jesus. And that's a preference of his that you get if you ask him what he likes to be called. But most people don't ask. But reason I'm saying all of this is that's one of the reservations. People have a lot of things in the way of having these types of encounters. They think that they have to go through a major spiritual process first. They think that they have to be 100% righteous first. They think they're too dirty to be in the presence of God, or They think that they have to die in order to be in the presence of God or things like that. In, the royal family they'll talk to you, they'll love you, they'll help you out, they'll give you dreams and visions, but they'll meet you on your terms, is kind of how I can describe that. If you say, I won't see you till I die, they say, well, I'll wait for you to die and then we'll see each other. But in general, they could come see you now. They, honestly, and just to talk about what I mean by they want it more than we do, and it's a right, not a privilege. I am a big example of trying to work too hard to get an experience like that. For the 6 months leading up to that, I was a brat. I figured that because of how serious I was taking my Christianity, I was studying the Bible more than everyone. I was praying for hours a day. No one's doing that. I'm fasting. No one fasts, especially if you're Baptist. We eat food after church. We don't fast. I'm doing all the right things. I'm like I'm marking off everything on the Christian checklist. And I'm hearing people have experiences with him. They're having face-to-face encounters and I'm not. I have students at the time who are having encounters with him where I'm in the same room and I can't see him, but they can. I have classmates, because I'm still in high school at this point, who are having dreams, visitations in their dreams. And one of them had the nerve to tell me, oh, I thought everyone sees them, at least in their dreams. I've seen him like 3-4 times. I'm like, three? He doesn't even do any other stuff I'm doing. And you showing up for him 3 or 4 times. So I was very much a brat. I was telling Yeshua things like, don't talk to me if you won't show up. I'm like, if you could talk to me, you can appear. I don't want to hear that. I think I've earned it. And it was in the moment of me not trying that he finally showed up. He's like, you think you can actually earn a visitation? No. I earned it for you, to be honest. That's kind of the point, is that he did all the heavy lifting for us, so we just get to reap the benefits. So I'm a big spokesperson for keeping mysticism easy. It can be impactful without being strenuous.
All right. Well, I'm kind of hooked, right? I'm like that person who was, had, like I was saying to you before we hit record, had zero religious upbringing,
Mhm.
and a continual fascination with the esoteric, let's call it that. And I've had one out of body experience that I managed to generate almost by accident. But I want to know more, and I want to, experience more of those things. And I don't want to have to wait until I'm dead to go and, you know, meet who else is out there. Right.
Yeah.
So how does that work from a practical perspective? Is it only when people come to you like in person, or do people have these experiences when they, get on with your Zoom? How does that work?
So y'all don't actually need me for it. And it's kind of hard to put it into words, especially for a podcast, because people are different. Um, for what it takes for them to relax and let themselves have the experience. So the only part I play is getting people out of their head enough to just let it happen, because that's more so what it is. You start to put certain verses into effect for the audience that is familiar with the Bible, right? He says things like, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of you. So whenever there was 2 or 3 people around, I just started looking for him. I'm like, wait, he said he's here. Where is he? So I start looking. Sometimes he pops up, sometimes he doesn't. But that's how I started to train myself. I'm like, wait, there's 2, 3. Okay. Where's he at? He's supposed to be here. Now, of course, with more research and deeper levels of mystery that I've dived into, I understand that that's much deeper than just a visitation. But that was one of the codes that helped me keep it simple. These are entities that are always around, not even something we have to invite. So there were certain things that I did to help me let them be in my world. So um, something that I did at one point, I got a chair, set it in my room, and set it aside just for them. It was a reserved seat in my room. I'm like, if any of you ever want to come visit me, this is your chair. Nothing else goes here. And, sometimes I come into my bedroom, it's just a chair. Other times I walk past and there's this energy radiating off of it. I'm like, okay, one of them is in this chair right now. This is my early days. I don't 100% know the difference between them yet. There were some times where I would go into my room and look at that chair and you could see a faint silhouette in the chair. So when I started to build a relationship with them, it was no longer closing my eyes and speaking just out of confidence or out of faith. It was focusing on the energy that it made itself manifest in my world. So I maintained that everywhere that I went. Not saying I began to see them everywhere that I went, but the expectation, me looking for them, started to happen a whole lot more, which meant that I got to see them in places that other people didn't just because I was looking for them. An example of this, I recently told a story that happened to me back in maybe 2021, 2022. I had went to get me some food. I don't know if y'all have Wendy's in Australia, but I went
I
to Wendy's. And this particular day, I'm going to get me some food. There's a decently long line, and there's this homeless guy out there begging. And it's like this tall guy with locks, has on normal clothes, and he got a bike next to him. And he's asking just for some food. So I roll down my window. I ask him, I said, "Hey, what you need?" He says, "Just some food." I'm like, "Well, what kind of food do you want? Like, you want a burger, anything you don't want on it? I'm going to help you out. I got enough money to get you some food. I won't give you no money, but I'll get you some food." So he tells me, he's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Get me anything. I'm just hungry." So I tell him, I'm like, "All right, I'm going through the drive-through. You wait for me by the exit. I'll hand you your food once I come out the line." So I see him, he takes his bike, he goes, waits by the exit. I go through the line. The line was pretty long. I get my food, I order him some food. I get to the end, I hand him his food. He tells me, "Thank you." He's like, "Bless you." He hops on his bike and he pulls off, and I watch him turn past the pole. And when he passes the pole, he disappears. And I realized that I just bought Yeshua some food because when I was looking, I'm like, this guy looks familiar, but I can't place my finger on it. No, this is him. This is this guy playing a joke. And I'm thinking about how many people passed this guy up today and didn't realize who that was. How often does he do stuff like that where he's among us physically and tangibly, and we don't recognize that he's around? So, because of the awareness that I train myself in, I catch him more times than not. But just that awareness, that idea that he's likely to be around, gets people to have more encounters with him. It's almost like Where's Waldo?